Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RTD News updates. And as you can tell from today's title, Qatar riyal is in trouble. I'm going to be covering the currency of the country of Qatar, as well as some of the issues surrounding the whole terrorism aspect of a lot of major things that's happening right now in the Middle East. And so I have about 6 or so articles I'm going to share with you. As always, I'm going to leave them below for you to be able to dive into them deeper for yourself. And before we actually get to those articles, I want to encourage you to take a minute and take the RTD Monetary IQ quiz, which is about 10 questions dealing with just some of the basic things with monetary awareness and monetary literacy that I like to teach here at Rethinking a Dollar. As well as if you're new to RTD, feel free to visit the RTD University link below, where you get a chance to watch some of my prior interviews with a lot of monetary and financial experts. It will help you better understand the Rethinking a Dollar concept. So let's dive into today's articles. So, as I mentioned, I have 6 articles I'm going to cover today, all dealing with the current aspects of terrorism. We have a natural gas issue. We have a currency issue. So there's a lot of things right now that's developing in the Middle East, and it's all surrounded around Qatar. And so I remember this past weekend receiving some updates on my phone about how several nations surrounding Qatar were just breaking diplomatic ties with the country, and I wasn't quite sure why. So I decided to do a little homework, little research on my side here, and came up with some articles that I thought kind of gives you an idea as to what's going on there, just to help you become more aware of just how this whole monetary system is interconnected. So the very first article I have here is from the dailymail.com, and it's entitled "Gulf Nations Cut Off Relations with Qatar After Country Paid $1 billion Ransom to Al-Qaeda to Free Kidnapped Royals." The next article here is from Gulf News, and it's "Most Exchanges No Longer Accept the Qatar Currency," or Qatari currency. The next one here is from Al Jazeera. It says Qatari riyal under pressure amid Gulf diplomatic rift. And then the next one here is from Financial Times, and it's Qatari currency at weakest since 1998, peg under unprecedented pressure. And the next one here has to do with some of the impact of what's going on, and it says the Philippines halt workers deployment to Qatar. And then the very last one here kind of gives you another alternative perspective on the whole situation outside of terrorism in Qatar. And it says, forget terrorism. It says the real reason behind Qatar crisis is natural gas, and that's from Zero Hedge. So like always, I'm going to just skim through the top, and then as I always leave a link for you below to dive into further. So I want to be short and concise with this one. So give you an idea of what's going on here. It says Gulf nations cut off relations with Qatar after country paid $1 billion. And so I'll give you a couple bullet points here. It says Qatar paid Iranian and Al-Qaeda-linked forces to release hostages held in Iraq. It says the Falcon hunters were kidnapped by jihadis in southern Iraq in December 2015. So just off those 2 bullet points there, kind of gives you an idea that this has been something that's lingering for a while now, and it's finally hitting the surface. And so the question is why? And so give you an idea of what's going on here. It says the hefty ransom reportedly secured the release of 26 members of a falconry party, which included some members of Qatar's royal family who were kidnapped back in jihadis while hunting a southern Iraq in 2015. It says Saudi Arabia, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain cut off diplomatic relations with Qatar on Monday over alleged support for Islamists and Iran in coordinated move. It says Yemen, Libya's eastern-based government, and the Maldives joined in later, opening up one of the worst rifts in years. So here we have some gentlemen getting off a plane. It says it was revealed on Monday that one of the tipping points for Qatari Gulf Arab relations could have been a ransom Qatar officials paid earlier this year. So they're basically, taking this back a little bit further. It says the hefty ransom reportedly secured the release of 26 members. And so it shows a picture here. So just give an idea of how this could actually shape up to be something a lot bigger than what the mainstream media might portray it to be. So the next one here, it says, from Gulf News, it says most exchanges no longer accept the Qatari currency. So basically, once all those diplomatic relationships were cut off, a lot of the business dealings, as well as just the interconnectedness of their countries, was at risk, and it has a lot to do with their currency, the riyal. And so, give you an idea of what's going on there. It says Dubai, most exchange houses in the UAE no longer accept Qatari currency as a diplomatic crisis between Qatar. It says the UAE and other Arab states stretches into its 3rd day. So this was as of yesterday. It says 1 out of 10 large UAE exchange bureaus, just 2, Al Asari and UAE Exchange, were still trading Qatari riyals on Wednesday. So as of yesterday, 2 out of the 10 major exchanges were actually doing business with the riyal. And so the peninsula of Qatar is about 2.5 million or so people that live there. And so a lot of those people, of course, have their savings and everything tied into the riyal. So bank accounts contain riyal. So if it's in question as to whether or not the currency is worth doing business with, only people actually need that currency are the citizens and the businesses that do business with that country. And so imagine if there's question around the currency, how that could cause a panic to the people holding that currency. So just something that would be of concern to me if I was a Qatari citizen or having to live there and had a bank account full of riyals. So the very next one here, it says from Al Jazeera, says Qatari riyal under pressure amid Gulf diplomatic rift. And it says exchange rate fell to the lowest since June 2016 after Saudi central bank asked to sell Qatari currency. And so the bordering country, which is right at the very bottom of the peninsula of Qatar, is the country of Saudi Arabia. It says the Qatari currency came under pressure on Tuesday as Gulf commercial banks began to hold off on dealing with Qatari banks because of the diplomatic rift in the region. It says, however, the Qatari riyal is pegged by the Qatari central bank at $3.64 to the dollar, and this means that the central bank will use its foreign currency reserves to ensure the exchange rate does not fall below 3.64 rate. And so basically Qatar, in order to remain confident and keep that peg, as it says here, $3.64, they're going to have to start selling off some of their reserves to kind of counterbalance the major sell-off or the lack of interest in their currency, which will definitely deplete their reserves and could cause some problems down the line as well. So you have one of the bordering countries, Saudi Arabia, saying we're not going to do business in that currency. Definitely will cause a panic to those that are dependent upon the strength of that currency, being that, once again, it's one of those currencies that no one really needs other than people doing direct business with Qatar. So here's an article from Financial Times. It says Qatari currency at weakest since 1998, pegged under unprecedented pressure. And so here it shows a little graph of 1999. It has been fairly stable, being that it's pegged to the dollar at an even rate. And so we had some fluctuation here back in 2009 with the little recession. And then here we are in 2017, and there's been a major dip as of this whole last couple of days. And give you a little bit of what's going on there. It says the Qatari riyal fell to its weakest level in almost 2 decades on Thursday morning, straining the central bank's currency peg as the government diplomatic rift with its Gulf neighbors, described by rating agency Moody as the worst since the creation of the Gulf Cooperation Council in 1981. It says Saudi Arabia and 3 other Arab states cut diplomatic ties on Qatar on Monday. It says Qatar Central Bank generally keeps the riyal fixed in an extremely narrow range around $3.64, but its commitment to the peg has been tested since the start of this week. And then to play it to how it plays in even further into this whole mess is that there's a lot of countries that do business in Qatar. And so if there's question of the currency and being able to exchange and get paid, it says the Philippines halts workers deployment to Qatar. And so it says the Philippines on Tuesday halted the deployment of workers to Qatar as the gas-rich Gulf state grappled with a diplomatic crisis after its neighbors cut ties with Doha. It says labor chief said Manila was taking precautions as it fears that problems like food shortages could affect the more than 200,000 Filipinos in Qatar should the crisis worsen. It says Saudi Arabia and several other ties on Monday, severed ties, so more and more the same. But yet, you have another country with 200,000 Filipinos in the country, and they're concerned about, being able to sustain their people with the currency there. And so the very last one here is from Zero Hedge, and this gives you another perspective outside of what the mainstream media will give you. And so the mainstream media will paint it as just the whole ransom payment and funding terrorism and things like that. And so here's another one that's quite interesting. And this has to do with natural gas. It says, forget terrorism. The real reason behind the Qatar crisis is natural gas. And just to give an idea what's going on here, it says, however, as often happens, the official narrative is traditionally a convenient smokescreen from the real underlying tensions. It says the real reason behind the diplomatic fallout may be far simpler. It says once again has to do with a long-running and controversial topic, namely Qatar's regional natural gas dominance. And so it goes in further to give you an idea of the whole gas pipeline, how Russia's tied into it. It gets a lot deeper if you're interested, but just wanted to give you an idea of what was going on that may not be something that you know about or hear about in the mainstream news. dealing with the whole situation in Qatar and how we're presented with one subject matter being that they're funding terrorists, and so all the bordering countries are, cutting off ties. But as always, it always goes a lot deeper. And so it boils down to the national currency of Qatar, the riyal, being under pressure. And so the millions of people who are dependent upon saving and investing with that currency are, it becomes questionable as to whether or not the purchasing power of that currency will remain, which then puts a lot of people at risk, and then it puts the banking sector at risk. And so it could be a big domino effect starting in the Middle East with Qatar. So just want to take a quick minute to give you some information on what's happening. I hope you found this informative. If you did, please share this with your family and friends so they can find out what's going on. And if you're new to RTD, click the subscribe button for more news and updates, and look forward to bringing more news in the future. Enjoy your day. Thanks.